Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edge Talk Radio with Angela Zabel. That's me. And today we are going to be talking with Lorna J. Hines. She is a mental health and medium intuitive. She's a minister. She has so much going on. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but we're going to be talking about the connection, using connection and mental health as we go on. So you need to stick around for this one. So who am I? I am Angela Zabel. I have connected with spirit my entire life, working with a team in the non-physical, sharing messages from a multitude of realms and working with people around the world. I am a teacher, coach, medium, intuitive, radio show host, writer, and I also do retreats and we do guidance and speaking engagements. So I also offer the guidance with mediumship, regular guidance, intuition. I do that online or in person with private events. I also offer classes and the Amplified Universe membership. This is about who we are, growing to understand who we are, growing our connection to us, understanding who we are in the world and what our role is in the world. And this is also about sharing our knowledge and working with others and people throughout the world. This is an amazing group of people. I hope you take a chance to check it out. You can find me on all the social media aspects, but the biggest thing is go to my website, angelazabel.com. And today we are here with Edge Magazine. Edge Magazine is the leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living, health, wellness, and the mysteries beyond, sharing information, wisdom, and resources, committed to promoting businesses, organizations, and individuals as they support our collective journey to wholeness, wellness, and balance. You can sign up and find out more about Edge Magazine at edgemagazine.net. If you're interested in getting the magazine, the hard copy, like one right here, we have the hard copy of Edge Magazine. You can get it sent directly to your door. You can go online, sign up for their newsletter, and they also offer that magazine online each and every month. And if you're a business and want to be a drop spot, go ahead and fill up the form online because the Edge Magazine is currently in 30 states doing 17,000 printed editions every time they do the edition. And you can find us at edgemagazine.net. And make sure to check out all of the past articles and the past radio shows. There's a lot of great information there. And today we are with Lorna. Lorna is a certified medium and intuitive counselor who has over 41 years of behavioral health industry experience, as well as a master's degree. She's gone on to obtain extensive training in mediumship, healing, and developing intuition. Lorna uses this experience and training to supplement her strong intuitive and extrasensory abilities when providing guidance. The leader of the development group has an extensive background in mental health, substance abuse, counseling, psychotherapy, and workforce development spanning over 40 years. The background includes roles and responsibilities as an administrator, university professor, program developer, grant writer, clinician, and coach in hospitals, nonprofits, and governmental settings. However, throughout this career, there's always been a strong intuitive sense, often hearing and seeing things, and always wanting to heal others. Lorna is also a spiritual minister. She has SNU credentials, which is certified the world over. She also does in speaking and in mediumship demonstration. She also works with parents who need healing with Mark Ireland. She's been certified through his program. So make sure to check out all those amazing programs, and they are amazing, believe me. And also, just to let you know that when Lorna saw the movie Spirit Children, it was a short documentary shown on the if I get this right, Titanic International Film Fest. Is that right, Lorna? How do you pronounce that?
T-neck.
Oh, there you go.
You did fine.
Oh, that's good. After seeing that film, she wanted to do something to help the children depicted in the film. It was made by her friends Zelda and Ralph Patterson about an orphanage in northern Ghana run by Sister Stan Therese Momoni. In the rural area, some believe that children born with birth defects or disabilities are omens of bad fortune. These spirit children are rejected or ritually killed for their sake of the remaining family and community. To save these children, Sister Stan and her staff take them in and help them get proper health care and education. So this is something, and I love that you brought this up because this is something near and dear to my heart also. So thank you. And I also want you to know Lorna offers mediumship, guidance, readings, trance healing, development, numerology, inspired speaking. She does poetry, and there's so much more to Lorna. I can't wait to get into it. And you can find out more about Lorna on her website, lornajhines.com. She also has her Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and she's also the administrator of the Facebook group Mediums of African Ancestry. I've got to say, I've known Lorna. I met her quite a few years ago. Hasn't been that long though. And when I met her, I had so much fun. And it's like, oh, I love this woman. And I am so happy to have her on the show today. So, Lorna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I am just curious, how did you go from being the university professor, working in all of these different governmental aspects, to then working into more of the spiritual aspects? How did that transition happen for you?
Well, actually, and again, thank you so much for having me.
You're so
But
welcome.
but actually, it really wasn't as big of a transition as it sounds. The reason being, I have been reared and socialized within my family in terms of spiritual aspects. We were a family that I would describe as religious, following a religious doctrine, but also uh, related to that was an absolute belief in spiritual types of endeavors. So, for example, my grandmother, who had a wonderful, wonderful, intense spiritual presence, um, would do healing on us. We didn't recognize it was healing, but let's say we were ill with something. I was always a kid with respiratory issues. And so, besides the doctor medicine, she would also place hands on us on the affective areas and sit in the quiet. And now I know she was pulling in the healing elements of the universe and being utilized as that healing element and placing it on the grandchildren. Besides that, it was commonplace to see candles burning in our household for certain issues that needed to be attended to, and calling upon a wide variety of spirit friends. We call them spirit friends, in various things that were going on in terms of prayers and rituals and things as such. So for me, it wasn't such a big transition. But what I had found in the course of doing my mental health and substance abuse work is that there was something missing.
Mm.
Okay, that there was something that, in addition to all of that, that I needed to do. There was something in my innermost mind, body, and spirit that wasn't being sufficiently satisfied. And so I went about my own sojourn. I did have a period where I felt that I wanted to touch people with my hands, that there was a sense of wanting to heal. And I did that briefly in a church. But then that ended for a variety of reasons. And so thereupon, I went with my own spiritual quest and intensified studies, met all the right people, including Tony Stockwell, where you and I met. And then the story now has emerged, bringing us together again.
I love that. And I've got to say, for me, I love Tony Stockwell. I had such a great time. I learned so much there. Um, Understanding more of how to work with the mediumship, I think, was something so important I learned there.
Yes.
And I got to meet you and so many other amazing people. I was like, it was the best time.
Yes, it was. It was. It really was. Yes, absolutely.
And at that time, you were not doing mediumship full time, correct? You were not doing your job full time. You were kind of balancing back and forth on that. And how have you made the transition to completely do more of the spiritual aspect, or are you still balancing both sides?
Well, I think yes and no in answer to your question. Once I made the decision to leave full-time employment, that it wasn't giving me the sense of peace, the sense of passion. Once I decided to do that, then it allowed me to have even greater ability to do the work that is near and dear to our hearts. But keeping in mind, roughly from maybe 2009, 2008 onwards, I was in deep study.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to to learn with the wonderful people, teachers, mentors, Mavis Patilla, as you know, Tony Stockwell, James Von Prague, Colin Bates, Simon James, Brian Robinson. I mean, with those two, I did 3 years of work. They called it a School of the Soul. Of course, Janet Nohavec, may she rest in peace.
Yeah.
Janet Nohavec, and as you know, I became a member of the church and went on to be a healer with them and also a spiritualist minister. So it is not as structured and or stop and go as one. It again was a transition where I studied also with the Spiritualist National Union International, and that has its own story. When one time we will talk about it. They are very structured. They're very demanding. They're very strict, and we started out with a large group from North America, and it ended up being very few people that went on to do the pass and also doing the CSNU. So it sounds like it was, I cut and just went on, but it was a transition leading to what I'm doing now, where I do readings, I do trance, I do demonstration, I do platform, but I've continued with my psychotherapy work because my guides, my helpers, they have inspired me that I need to continue that work as well as the healing work. Of course, the practices are separate. I wouldn't say that there's a amalgam of things, but I do think that my work, who I am, uh, and it includes being intuitive, that impacts the mental health work. It always has. Um, in addition, I recently was recruited to provide assistance to a program that is focused on gender violence that women have experienced. And so I'm the clinical director there of Black Women's Blueprint. Now, it's interesting. They're not only interested in me being a longtime mental health clinician and university professor and blah, 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 all the things that you talked about. But they're also very interested in my spiritual proclivity and as well as my background in cultural issues, cultural competence, linguistic competence, history, all of those aspects as well. So I find myself, at least with them, bringing together both worlds, both the mental health, the psychiatry, all of the state of the art practices, but yet also the spiritual practices as well. We teach the women deep breathing. We work with the women with yoga, with energy healing, with all sorts of different alternative healing practices that are so helpful to people who have unseen hurts, that are in pain, that are suffering from PTSD, and it's not enough for the talking therapy and medicine.
I love that. And one of the things I keep hearing from my team is they are so thankful that you're willing and able to combine both worlds when you're working with people in other aspects that those people would never be able or think about stepping into your spiritual world on just on its own. But by doing it in the mental health capacity and adding it to it, you're reaching so many people that would have never had that opportunity and never had the ability to step out of that circle, and some out of fear, some out of just not knowing.
Yes.
And that's the key of what you're doing, is bringing those worlds together, bringing that both aspects of your, and they're doing air quotes, of your work. And how you're helping so many people on all different levels. As you've been working with them on this doing the spiritual aspect, working with their mental health, have you seen a, and they're telling me you've kind of been doing this your whole life, whether you've let on or not, that you've kind of been adding it into your everything you've been doing. But have you seen really that they're calling it the 1-2 whammy of doing the regular psychological and then adding in the spiritual in the comfortable, safe ways of doing it? Have you noticed an increase in people accepting and moving forward and helping in their own personal healing with that aspect?
That's an interesting question, Angela. And here's how I would like to answer it, because I'm also mindful that I am a licensed clinician for New Jersey and New York, and I was even on the board of social work, the state board. So I'm very mindful and aware of the differences in our work. But true to form, the entire behavioral health industry has moved much more forward to these alternative practices. I mean, when you think of EMDR with the eye movement desensitization with trauma, uh, that is not, it's a state-of-the-art practice. But one might say that that is not the normal type of normal, I'll do the air quotes too, type of psychotherapy that Freud talked about with being on the couch. Uh, we do breathing as part of breath work, as part of uh, ongoing psychotherapy work. We do visualization as part of ongoing psychotherapy work, and is recognized as a very helpful intervention with people. We also, when I talk about the greater aspects of mental health therapy, have recognized that our client, or our, I'm old school, so I may say patient, forgive me for that, but they very much have a role in the design implementation of their treatment, and that we must have a sense of cultural humility in understanding that the power dynamic that existed years ago, where the clinician was up here and the patient was down here, but now we understand that it's a more egalitarian type of relationship. And so it's important for us to keep in mind that people who suffer a variety of mental health conditions need to have a say so, need to have a voice. The numbers of people that are suffering with various mental health difficulties who are now standing up and saying, well, let me try yoga. I'll try the medicine, but I need to try yoga. I need to try drumming. I need to do breath work. So I would say sooner or later, we're going to see even a greater presence of spiritual practices in state-of-the-art mental health. Look at acupuncture. You know, acupuncture is very helpful, as is chiropractic. These are a listing of different interventions that are helpful to people, especially along the trauma spectrum. And lo and behold, there's a whole movement to use psychedelic drugs. I have no personal experience in it, but I certainly have seen people who have been involved with it. So I hope I answered your question in whatever way is helpful in both you and your listeners in understanding my perspective.
Absolutely. And actually that was such a good answer to it because they wanted to hear, my team is just saying they wanted to hear you say how things have changed, things have evolved from when you started till now going forward now, how so much more of that spiritual aspects that's really not spiritual. It's really just our way of healing that is being accepted by so many in the different areas that would never have accepted it before are now bringing it in, making it part of, and not two separate things, but having your regular, and they're calling it the Western type medicine, added to the spiritual type, added together. But it's really just understanding our bodies and calming and breath work. And they're saying, they're just telling me when people think of spiritual, you don't think of breath work as spiritual, but it's really a breath work of the soul. And they're saying that it's something that they're so happy to see, though all those on the other side are happy to see us embracing more of who we are. And I think it's been a slow progression throughout time. But yoga and all those different aspects where they're teaching breathing, they're teaching centering, has all started to culminate together. And I think that is something those on the other side, are saying they are so glad to see us embrace at this time. And knowing that with you and with all the mental health, they're embracing both sides and bringing it together. That's something so important going forward. And I think, have you noticed they want to ask you, as in the last 10 years or 15 years, have you noticed a bigger influx of adding these in than what it was, say, in the previous 30?
Absolutely. And I wanted to build on what you said earlier, that the uh, the use of a number of these different practices has led to less stigmatizing of mental health, less stigmatizing of people feeling uh, unworthy, or in some way that it's a sign of weakness, spiritual or physical weakness, that they have a mental health challenge. And I think the eradication of stigma is exactly where we need to go, so that people begin to own and feel that there are opportunities for problem solving. There are opportunities that could help some of, again, the unseen hurts. You know, if you have a bad cold, it's okay. You can go to the doctor and you know you're going to get whatever. But if you have a sense of uneasiness, a sense of devalue, a sense of feeling damaged in some good for some. How do you go about tackling that? You may, if you have a relationship with your primary care doctor, you may explain that to the primary care doctor. But at the same time, prayerfully, that doctor is not necessarily going to try to do it all, and that hopefully some referrals would be made to people that could address, again, those unseen hurts. And even this idea, you're a coach, even this idea of coaching has retained just a wonderful presence in people, that we don't necessarily have to go around with different aspects in our lives, our career, our relationships, whatever the case may be, and not receive the help that we need, that it's okay for us to say, I need help. I keep repeating the same patterns in my life with choosing the wrong men or the wrong woman or the wrong people. What is, and it's not necessarily there's something wrong with me, but maybe it's about the choices I'm making, and also the information that is part of my perception, is part of my thinking, my cognitions, my emotions that are motivating me to make certain choices about certain people.
I love that. I love the aspect you said it's not our fault. It's not like there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with you when you're trying to figure out what's going on, when you're trying to get to the root of the problem and trying to figure out why you've been repeating patterns again and again. And I've got to say, I was there and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But it's really knowing you're not doing anything wrong, but actually you're doing something right because you're starting to recognize I've got patterns. What are they? Why am I doing it? How can I get through them? And finding the people, if you can't do it yourself, to reach out and find the people to help you discover more of the patterns, help you move through the patterns and bring you to the life that you really want to have.
Yes.
And as you've been working through this, have you found, like they talk about mental crisis, have you found people being in like a spiritual crisis or confusion about who they are, how they can connect to themselves, what's wrong with them, or not necessarily they're saying not what's wrong with them, but how to connect with who they are on a soul level? Have you found more people where they're wanting to know like who are we? What am I doing? And is there something you also do coaching in different aspects? Do you work with people who are just trying to figure out who am I and how do I understand more about myself?
Absolutely. And I think what you're referring to, Angela, because my team, they're also talking to me, but I think what you're talking about is the extent to which that we can connect with others that are experiencing this type of thing where they don't have a sense of satisfaction. They don't have a sense of peace. They don't have a sense of oneness within themselves. And for that, oftentimes what I would do is what we call soul reading, where I would connect with them on a soul to soul level. So I have a sense of what is going on in their inner world, their auric field. Uh, what are the things that they're facing, and what is the universe calling them to do in their life? Because oftentimes we we choose certain careers or certain types of employment based upon what our parents may tell us, or based upon, well, this is a job. I guess I'll go be a teacher because I'll get out at 3 o'clock and I'll be off on the on the summers. And it's not really what their soul is calling them to do. That inside of them, it may be a dancer or artist or some other type of uh, work. We're told that the work that we do should be something that even if we were very wealthy, we would still do it because it has such meaning to our mind, body, and soul. And that type of success and satisfaction, for many people, they feel it's unattainable. They
No.
feel that it's not something that they can have in their life, that there may be constant struggle, there may be unhappiness, there may be a sense of self-sacrifice that they must undergo. That is life. That's what they're told. This is life. So the message I would have for people is that my understanding of what spirit and all of the healers and guides and the orishas and the power animals and the ascended masters and the angels and the archangels and the whole group here that they really want us to have a sense of happiness in our lives, a sense of security, a sense of focus, and being able to resonate and interact with the inner message that our soul wants to exhibit, as in part to the reason that we came to Earth, the Earth realm in the first place. So if I were working with a person that was undergoing that kind of challenge, this is how I would work with them. I would connect with them on a soul level and, of course, the auric field, and begin to help them unravel, help them to connect with what their soul's mission is really about.
I think that's something important for people to recognize. And it is because a lot of people feel lost. They don't know where they should go, what they should be doing, and they just don't know where to turn. And to have that path they're saying almost like a lifeline to hang on to say, help me figure out just where to go. I just don't know. And that's something so important for people to recognize that there are lifelines out there. And sometimes people get into, they're just saying there's a lot of people on our planet where they're going through depressions and anxieties. And a lot of it, from what I've understood from them, a lot of it comes from just not understanding who you are and bringing that connection to the spirit world and bringing that through is such a big help to so many. It's not the answer to all of it,
No,
but it's a help to start the healing, to start the inner healing and the knowing you're so much more than just human. And that's something that you have been helping so many people with throughout the years, understanding they can heal themselves, they can bring themselves forward and create the life they're looking for by understanding who they are at a deeper level.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
as you've been working with so many people, have you noticed there are more people who are questioning who they are in the last few years as far as human than you did maybe when you started? Are there more people that are more questioning, like, who am I and how can I get in connection with myself? Have you noticed that increasing?
I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to answer it a little personally, if you don't mind, because
Absolutely.
um, it just your question reminds me of I'm in a process of publishing a book.
Nice.
It's called Straight Talk from a Wise Woman,
Love it.
and in many ways, your question speaks to my own uh, conflict, turmoil, churning uh, throughout my life in trying to deal with a number of different traumatic situations that I had to face. So the book begins with talking about my reaction to the murder of George Floyd. Unfortunately, um, there had been a number of different murders of people like me prior to George Floyd. But for some reason, the airing of the murder and the face that Derek, the police officer, Derek Chauvin, had in the course of him sucking the life out of George Floyd, for some reason, it caused a significant trauma within me. And uh, my team pushed me to come out of the traumatic situation that I was feeling and to write about it. And so I used his uh, his murder and the situation that I found myself in as a jumping off point to talk about my own trauma, the intergenerational trauma within my own family, and the traumas that I faced of people in the course of my clinical work. Everything from children who had been uh, uh, sexually abused, raped, women that had undergone sexual harassment, all of these different types of trauma. But then I don't necessarily just leave people in that hopeless type of state. And also, I reminded myself that I was not in a hopeless state. So in the book, I talk about different things people can do to initiate, to design their own toolbox of healing strategies, that we don't necessarily have to uh, find a counselor or even a therapist, but are there things that we can do to ameliorate, to heal uh, uh, our own hurts, the pain that no one sees except ourselves? So again, in answer to your question, I had in many ways with this book to see it for myself, but I would be less than honest if I didn't say, absolutely, you're correct. There, at least maybe the spirit teams are working with people outside of myself and saying, you go look this woman up. She might be helpful to you, because people have come to me with those types of situations. So for example, I recently had a woman who is a senior citizen that has led her whole life for her husband, for her children, for her grandchildren, for just helping and working with others, never having the opportunity to just try to figure out what her life should be. So we have been working, she and I, for several years on how she transitions from this life with children and others to a life where she can be herself and do things herself and have things herself. So I think that that might be in part in response to your question, but there are many other examples I can give you of situations like that.
I think that's, for one thing, I think it's really a great talking point to show, like in your new book, how you're taking one aspect and you're talking about it, you're working through it, you're talking about how you felt with it, and then talking about other aspects with different abuse, with different things that people experience. And working your way through them, but then also there, I just keep hearing from them on the other side that you have made sure you're not leaving people on a low point, but instead leaving people on a high point, and how to rectify, how to work through it as a human, that not everything in life is perfect on the outside world, but the things that aren't perfect get all of us talking. And the talking creates the energy for healing. And that is where we all need to be. And they're saying that that's something that they are so happy to see in our world as a whole, that more people are talking about everything that was never talked about before, even the spiritual aspect. A lot of this was never talked about before. Maybe by you and your family, sounds like it was amazing to have some of those aspects going on. My family is like, oh, you don't talk about that stuff. And as you've been working on this, and you mentioned the children, and they want me to kind of go into the spirit children you had talked about earlier about, and this is the children. So as you saw the spirit children, and these are the children that were going to be killed or not sacrificed, but killed or whatever to save the families there, the ones who had disabilities. As you saw that, how, because you have a team you work with also, were you kind of going into yourself, going through your own emotions first? Was your team helping children are experiencing or what they're here for? Or can you talk about any of that?
Of course. Well, let me say this. Years prior to me being introduced to this orphanage, I was in a class at Omega,
Mhm.
and I was paired up with a woman from Canada who said in a reading, I think that she worked with the beloved mother, right? The Here's some cultural stuff for you, for your audience also. Uh,
Absolutely.
it's it's interesting that different people, based on their cultural experience, name the Blessed Mother. They're talking about the mother of Jesus in different ways. Now, she, I guess, is coming from a Catholic persuasion, so she said Blessed Mother. But we also know in West Africa, part of the mm, tremendous history of the African people being pushed into Catholicisms and such, then renamed some of the some of their deities, some of their orishas, they're called.
Okay.
And the Orisha for Blessed Mother, although some would say there's not a direct connection, but nonetheless, Yemaya is the Orisha among West African people as the beloved mother, being the mother of us all. And by the way, we did a piece on Yemaya in my group Mediums African Ancestry. And of course, your readers are welcome to join us when we have different programs. But the face of Yemaya is on the Starbucks uh, uh, advertisement on the cups. So you take a look
Really?
at who they use and it's Yemaya. But anyway, I promise
That's
to get
cool.
back to the original story here. So
I love that.
it is, it's wonderful. Um, and so I was in this class, I'm paired with this woman, and this woman tells me the beloved mother is going to work with you because we know you work and have worked with many children, but you are going to work with many more children. And you can be aware that this is all going to happen because the beloved mother knows. I'm paraphrasing, so you'll allow me that because it was years ago. The
I'll
beloved,
let you off on that one.
the beloved mother knows that you have a love of shoes and different shoes. I do. We all have our little pet peeves. I blame it on my mother, who was also a shoe lover.
I love it.
So you will know that your work expanding interventions and love of children is going to happen because you will find a pair of white shoes with a sparkle design on them. And
Okay.
when you see that, you know that the work with children is going to come. So, of course, I did find these shoes, but I didn't at the time make the connection until I spoke with two friends, as I mentioned, Zelda and Ralph Patterson. Zelda was a psychiatric nurse in nurse practitioners in one of the facilities I was working at, and her husband is in a oh, all sorts of film and so forth type of work. And I didn't know that they had gone to Ghana until they came back. And just over the phone and talking to her, she said, Ralph and I went to Ghana. We have some great footage that we put together on orphanage there. And I said to her, oh, you need to submit that to the TNEC International Film Festival. Never even seeing the film, but knowing intuitively that this was good. And so they submitted it. It was accepted. And of course, the day of the showing, I went. Never saw it before. So I'm sitting in the audience, and as I saw the children, I could hear the children speaking to me and also the Blessed Mother saying, you have to help them. And so again, not knowing how I was going to do it or whatever, I certainly am not a woman of wealth or, have connections to big shot philanthropic organizations. I wish I could call up Mr. Gates or one of them and say, gee, could I have a couple of million? So I don't have that, but I do have a voice. I do have connections. And I also said again to my team, I have no idea how will I get to Ghana? How will I get these things to them or whatever? And of course, there was an answer, just like in front of me. My undergraduate institution sent out a notice that they were organizing a trip to Ghana for alumni. I know. And so I contacted them and they were just thrilled that I wanted to come. And I also explained about this orphanage, and they said, don't worry, we will get you there. We encourage adult learners such as yourself with taking steps to increase their learning and their independence. And so I just went about talking to people. I received donations from the Journey Within. I received Tony Stockwell. I told him about it. He gave me some money. And I was just friends, that heard about it, just gave money. And then I went and I used some of my own money to buy school supplies and and different healthy lollipops I thought maybe they like. And I packed up all these suitcases and went to Ghana, and also quite a bit of cash that I kept by me. So, and I ended up being able to go to the orphanage, and I got so much more than I gave, I will tell you. The night I arrived, the children were waiting for me, and they have since moved, but the place they were in my way of thinking, was really so awful. They gave me their best, which was a room with a fan, but it was really a difficult environment that they were in. And the children, as I greeted them and said hello to them, they sat me down in the middle of the courtyard. It was nice. The sister hadn't arrived yet because she was out collecting donations in a truck,
Oh,
food and different things for them. And so they sat me down in the middle of the courtyard. She must have told them, look, this lady's coming and, be good. And they sang songs, they prayed. I just, even thinking about it, it brings tears to my eyes because it was just such a wonderful experience. And I vowed to continue helping them from that point, and I've continued it. I've been blessed to be able to give my own resources. I don't have the strength and the stamina to do what I did before, because I used to send them boxes during Christmas, and my husband helped, but I don't have that sense of stamina and strength. But I do put aside, that's my holiday gift to myself, that I'm going to give to these wonderful spirit children. And this sister still comes. She comes to the United States to fundraise. One of the children was in Denver's Children's Hospital because she was born without an arm, and she had to have repeated surgeries. So they're doing better. Right now, they are trying to focus on services for the young adults that graduate 18 to 21 that need something, once they get to that age. So I'm looking forward to doing some type of fundraising for that particular program.
and that's
Yeah.
a big program to make that transition from the orphanage they're in to then going out into the world, because I would imagine the orphanage quits at 18 or 20 or
Knowing the sister, I don't think she would just throw them in the street.
yeah.
But at the same time, the resources are needed, most definitely.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to have that difference, to have that connection between here and halfway around the world, to make a difference in the lives of the people there and the children. And as you've worked with the children, I just keep getting this huge sense of just these beautiful shining souls, because a lot of people look at ones with birth defects But for you to have looked at them differently, to have seen them differently has made all the world of difference for so many down there. When you work with them, and I know you don't work with them all the time, but the children themselves, do you get has your team helped you kind of understand more of why they took that type of journey this time in life?
Well, I do think in part it has to do with change and initiating change in the thoughts and the perceptions of the people in that particular village. Um, that in some respects the thoughts and perceptions of some of the people in the village have to do with uh, the children being born with a particular defect, that is in some way a bad omen, or if the mother died in childbirth,
Mhm.
that is an indication that there's something wrong with that child. Now, isn't that possible that there's a relationship to their perception, to perceptions that we have here in the United States about being damaged or being no good or being unworthy? So I suspect that these children will be used as an example to the people that heretofore perceive them as evil or no good or unworthy, that when they see them at 18 or 19, after this sister, and she has a whole order now of other nuns that are working with her, which is so good because she was doing everything when I was
Oh,
down there. But when they see that these children have been educated, that maybe will have a career as a teacher or something, they will begin to examine, or shall I say, re-examine their wrongful perceptions about the children being evil or the children being witches. Um, and how important is that work? How how just utterly spectacular in initiating change, how important that is for this group of people. So if
absolutely.
I can help do that in any way, then I'm going to do it.
Absolutely. Talk about change at the core level, change at the mic not and they're saying not microscopic, but more community level to have that change in perception. And that's happening there with the spirit children, here with people's perception of them, and here with people's perception of each other
Yes.
is happening. And when it changes, when people start looking at changing their beliefs and changing their perceptions, no matter what it starts creeping into all areas of life. And you start looking at maybe I was incorrect on that. And they're saying, so my team is saying they wanted to choose the word incorrect versus wrong because wrong makes all of us feel we've done something, we need to be punished for it, we need to do that. Where incorrect is like, oh, I did that, that wasn't correct, and I'll just have to change and I can go forward and correct it from there. And to have a more easy flowing look at ourselves and releasing ourselves from so much as we consider damage of ourselves and the people around us. And that's something that's changing faster and faster every day. And do you know how long she has been doing this?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, and what's interesting is I think what you're talking about is kind of the butterfly effect. You
Yes.
know, when the butterfly moves their wings, what effect does that have on the environment beyond what we see?
Yes.
Beyond what we see, because not only are the perceptions changed of the people that maybe even put these children out to die, but the children's perceptions of themselves are
Yeah.
also changing. So the butterfly, kind of the butterfly effect. Um, it hasn't been very long that she's been doing this, because when I went there in 2014, and I would say maybe 2, 3 years
Oh,
uh before then, she she was there doing administrative work. She wasn't even she's not a nurse or a social worker.
oh,
Uh and I tell you, this is how spirit works in expanding the vision we have of ourselves. So she was a administrative assistant, and a imam, a Muslim imam who was part of this village, came to her with this problem that there were children being left in the bush to die, or in some way hurt. And was there anything she could do about it? That's exactly how it happened, and how the story unfolded till presently, where they're in Tamale, in a village near Song, in northern Ghana. Yeah.
nice. And
Mhm.
you know, the change that she's enacting and the change you're enacting and having and talking about it, they keep saying the talking is so important for all of us going forward. It's going to be so much more important than what we even realize now. And to
Yes.
make those change. And now a lot of those children that she's helped with are hitting that adulthood, are moving into that and being able to make that shift in that village, in that city, in that area is something they're saying the butterfly effect that you said is so true because it doesn't just affect that village, that area, that city, and instead it's flowing out to everyone around, switching and changing perception everywhere. I love that. And they just want me to go back to something that you had said earlier, and that is when you talked about how we talk about Mother Mary or the Blessed Mother, and you had the other, what was it again?
Yeah, but yeah.
Yamaya. That's it. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, but yeah.
Yamaya.
Hmm.
And they're saying that's something for everyone to realize is everybody in different cultures in different areas. You're all connecting, you're having this connection. Everybody just calls it a different name, which is going to be familiar to their culture. And to be open to it doesn't matter what it's called, it's the fact that everybody's connecting to something and to be not be judgmental. And for me, I don't know about for you, but for my team, they really don't care about their names. They're like, call us whatever you want. We really don't care. They're like, do whatever. I'm like, okay. And it's really about letting go of the names we've given to things and not worry about the name of it, but just know the presence behind it. I think that's something so important for so many people to bring all of us together, all of us around the world together more. And I think that's something I'm excited to be part of. And I think I know I'm guessing you are excited to be part of bringing this world together in a whole new perception, a whole new perspective for so many people. And I think that's something that helps people's mental health more than anything to not look at each other as separate, but to look at each other as we're all the same.
I agree with you. But however, I do think there's some work we need to do in spiritual practices, because I think it's no mistake also that you and I are getting together here at the beginning of February, where in United States we celebrate Black History Month. I'm of the opinion that Black history is history. And the same thing for the history of our spiritual practices. And one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about, and hopefully I'm creating a bit of a butterfly effect, is for us to revisit the extent to which Black, Indigenous, people of color are very much a part of the spiritual history, the history of modern spiritualism. You know, we talk so much about the Fox sisters and the house that they were in, and how they, in many ways, connected with this man that had been killed, and had a mediumship experience with him. But we left out so many people of color in that story, in the whole modern spiritualist movement. We left out William Cooper Nell, who was very much part of the Rochester, New York spiritualists, and also was an activist and an abolitionist. Harriet Wilson in the New Hampshire, Boston, Maine area, in the early 1800s, was a woman of tremendous power and skill, despite her very, very hard life. She was a indentured servant for a spiritualist family. That's how she got introduced to
Right.
spiritualism. And they mistreat her, unfortunately. But she went on to sit on platform with Andrew Jackson Davis. It was talked about in the newspapers. And she went on to do trans mediumship and all sorts of wonderful types of curriculum for children in the Children's Lyceum. And then, of course, in the New Orleans, you have the Cirque Harmonique, who was a group of men, Black men who sat in trance, in circle, and were visited by spirit friends that talked to them about the injustices that were going on at that time, and that how they needed to talk about it and hopefully create a butterfly effect. And we missed an opportunity to talk so importantly about the split that went on in the 1920s between the Black spiritualists and also the white spiritualists. Unfortunately, the National Spiritualist Association, they succumbed to mm, the strong uh, understanding and the strong laws at that time, Jim Crow, that there should not be the togetherness of Black and white spiritualists. And so they call for a separation of the Black spiritualists and the white spiritualists. And unfortunately, for lots of different reasons, there hasn't been a way for us to reconnect those groups and for us to acknowledge this history and say, well, whatever happened, we are sorry about it. But now we are going to worship together and be together and understand that the diversity that exists in our environment, in our jungles, in our gardens, and the beautiful differences that we can see. It's the same thing with the people. That spirit loves all of the children. The spiritualists talk about brotherhood of man. My wonderful journey within talk about brotherhood of women. Uh, so we understand that we have to have a wonderful sense of love for our brothers and sisters, no matter how different they are. But also, we must begin to recognize the extent to which people of color were very much a part of our history. We don't talk about it, we don't write about it. We really, unfortunately, have neglected this. And this, to me, is another very important part of my work.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing that I always wondered about. I'm like, okay, they always only bring up the Fox sisters. Like, there's so many others that have been doing things around the same time. And now I think there was a lot of division at that time. There's still division now, but I feel the division is moving through now, which I am so happy to see and feel. And to now we can bring out those stories because there's a lot of things about history that weren't told to us correctly and we weren't given all the information. But now start sharing. Now we can start bringing out the true history and things that there were because we are all one. And to bring us all together, that's the meaning. For me, it's such a passion of mine to bring everyone together. I always say, I don't care if you're black, white, pink, purple with polka dots. I don't care. I look at who you are as a person, and the rest is just uniqueness. Who cares? It's just uniqueness to be embraced and to look at the people as just people who are here full of love, full of that shining divine light and recognizing it and bringing those people together and talking. And that's the thing with it's so nice that both of us can talk and just say, hey, there's been all this out, but it's all our history, all of it. It's our history, all of us together. It's not one or the other. And there's so many parts of history that haven't even been uncovered. I should say have been uncovered but not spoken about yet, but will be and are being brought up. So what a beautiful time to be alive, to experience this change worldwide. It's not just here, it's worldwide. And they're just coming through me because they're making me emotional because they're saying this is the time of such huge change. And it's all of us talking. It's all of us recognizing we're all here together. We're all here to create this new world for all of us. And what a gift. What a gift. And that's something, as I was going to ask too, is, we look at there's the culture of, for those of you who are listening, I am white. and Lorna is of African descent. And with that, has there been a difference spiritually that you've noticed in your culture? Are people more willing, more open to it? Is it kind of a mixed bag? Because I've found in mine it's kind of a mixed bag. There's some that are very open to it, and some are like, oh, don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. How has it been for you as looking at your culture and other cultures, because you're very well traveled. You've been to a lot of different areas. Have you noticed the different culturally, regardless of, and for me, I don't care about the color of your skin, but it's cultural as far as how you are brought up and your beliefs and things. Have you noticed a big difference culture-wise with spirituality?
Well, some of my experience is based upon membership of Black, Indigenous people of color in our mediums of African ancestry. And for many of the people that are in touch with me, we have membership of almost 600. So
Yes.
I'm not closely connected to all of them, but some of them that I am connected with and uh, uh, have invited to be part of the group, they talk about the extent to which they don't necessarily feel a welcoming environment in spiritualist churches and also in the various teaching venues. And so they're looking and seeking for uh, venues and forums where they can feel accepted and feel understood and feel that they can be part of a group. And I would say also that some of my white members of my organization, although it says
I'm
me,
one.
I know you are. Um, I would say that some of my white colleagues are cognizant of some of those experiences. And one in particular, who I don't have permission, so I won't mention his name, but one in particular said that he is more mindful when he is at classes, and maybe there are on one or two of people of color, that he takes steps to introduce himself. And as you know, in many of those classes, uh, whatever it's lunchtime, everybody runs out. And
Yes.
um, he noticed that some of those people who happen to be uh, Black Americans, they didn't have invitation to go to lunch and to be with, for whatever reason, because I'm not saying that all the people in the class are racist. In fact, maybe many of the people in the class are shy and they don't know how to go up to someone and say, "Oh, gee, do you have lunch plans? Would you mind if we got together or something like that?"
Right.
they may be shy, but for whatever reason, what I have seen is this sense of not feeling welcome. Now, me on the other hand, I have gotten over this hurdle where I found myself most of the time the only person of color in many of these classes. And I developed friendships because I try to be friendly, I try to be open. And I mean, how we met, especially with
Absolutely.
people that, you're in the smaller circles, three people or two people or so forth. So uh the welcoming is for me has improved over the years. But keep in mind, again, some of my experiences have been very unfortunate. One one woman who is Black and a medium, um, she was uh, told something about her her large lips and her dark skin by one of her colleagues. And I know in my own experience, a white man went on platform, and when he made the connection with the spirit person happened to be a white person, a female. And as he gave the evidence, I'll be honest with you, it sounded like my great grandmother, who was a white Irish woman. So when I raised my hand to accept the information in this big group, the man said to me, "Oh, this can't be for you. This woman is white." So
Yeah.
you see, we still have some work to do. We still have to, I think, imbue our students and even our professional mediums with the idea that first and foremost, good mediumship or good trance work is based upon you being the vehicle for spirit, not bringing in your personal feelings or thoughts or whatever. Give as you are receiving without embellishing it in any way. And this is why I'm also an advocate for personal transformation as part of the work that we do in our studies. Don't just get a whole bunch of different techniques that you utilize to get, the spirit person's address or what they have in the top of their china closet or all this kind of, to me, unnecessary information. So I advocate for this transformative experience so that student mediums begin to understand that we are all socialized in a certain way, and we have to begin to understand what that socialization process how it has affected us, what it may do unknowingly that we in some respects change or modify the information that we're receiving from the spirit person. And for us to really have such a strong ethical and moral point of view that there's no way we're going to change the information that we're receiving because we understand uh, how wonderful, how spiritually sound, how uh, how spectacular that we have been chosen by spirit and spirit teams to act as a vehicle, and that we have to really in so many ways hold this up as something wonderful, cherish it as just this is just an extraordinary opportunity, and in no way can we deface it or put it down.
I love that. And it really is. It's learning to trust what you're getting because honestly, some of the stuff you get when you're doing readings is like there's no way that could be true. There's just no way. And then you say it and they're like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "Really?" So sometimes this stuff comes in and it's like, "Yeah, right." But you say it and then you find out, yeah, it is a big connection to them. So it is very and I think a lot of it is just trusting yourself with what you're getting because you never know what they're going to give you. But yes, to be the vehicle to share that message is so for me, I find it awe-inspiring every single time. And such a big honor to work with them. Like, it's just like, for me, it's taking the people I know here in the physical, like you and I, and then adding in hundreds and thousands of other people that you get to connect to and like, who are you and how do you operate and get information from? And it's just such a treat the whole time. And they want me to back up a little bit. You talked about trance healing for the people who don't know what trance healing is or trance mediumship. Can you explain that a little bit?
Of course, of course. And again, I was encouraged to explore trance after studying mediumship. And I went through a long mentorship, both again with Tony and Helen DeVita. And Helen, who I cherish so very much, said to me, "You do understand, Lorna, you were born to do trance." And this was echoed by Simone Key and John Goody, even though I resisted it because, it's very different energetically. But trance state is an opportunity for us, myself and others who practice trance, to get out of the way, okay, to go into a deep meditative state wherein we allow our spirit friends to come to us. For healing, we allow our spirit friends to come through us so that we may act as vehicles to provide healing to others, whether it is mm, silent and you feel it energetically, or sometimes the trance can be spoken. Trance involves the philosophy. It can involve also the extent to which I make a, a connection with someone around you, a loved one around you, and in trance state, bring forth their information for you. And I've had a couple of experiences with that have been just absolutely wonderful. So you have philosophy, you have the one-to-one interaction, and you also have the healing that I talked about. Trance is really an absolutely wonderful vehicle. I enjoy it every time I have experienced it. But for some people, you must be aware that unlike mediumship, where you are translating, you are interpreting the information you're getting from the spirit person in trance, you are that person, whoever it might be. I was in a trance demonstration some time ago, and the woman that came through, I was told after, was very verbose, very loud, very very, very. Um, and so for some people, that was a little bit intimidating. But we have to understand, I think, that this is part and parcel of what trance is all about.
I love that you brought up that for some people it can be a little intimidating to basically be embodying the energy of the person you're bringing through. But have you ever found it fearful to you, or has it more been just exciting, or was there a time of fear when you started?
I don't know if it was fear, if I could just explain to you an experience.
Absolutely.
I had an experience with a trance where this woman's father came into me. Now, what happened was that he had both a beard and and a mustache. And you can imagine when the trance session was over, I still felt I had a beard and a mustache. And I felt it so strongly, I had to leave the class and I went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror just to make sure that it wasn't there because it was so uh, intense, the feeling that I felt it was still present. I wouldn't call it, I didn't fear it, but I just felt it was something that was there, but that it wasn't there. Now, I will also say the the trance experience I had with the very verbose,
Mm.
strong, intense woman, after it was over, there were some negative feedback from some people that they felt I was not appropriate in the trance state. But and that was a little bit put off. But nonetheless, I've continued to study. I've continued to present. I probably will do a trance demonstration with a colleague of mine in the next couple of weeks. And if your listeners are interested, I do things like this. It'll be free. They welcome to join and experience the wonders of trance. The woman that I work with is a trance healer, and I don't know if I'll do healing or if I'll do philosophy. I don't know, but we'll see. But it'll happen in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. And
Thank
that's the
you.
thing for people to know that this trance, it can change. It'll change what's coming in. And sometimes, yes, it's very real where you're feeling it and everything comes through. I just want to say they're my team is laughing on the other side because they're saying it's funny that they deemed you it was not appropriate what you said or what you did when they're not always appropriate on the other side. So how could you be what they're not?
Well said. Well said.
So they're just laughing. They're like, that's the fun of us. We get to not be appropriate all the time too. They,
Well said.
they love to have fun. They do love to have fun on the other side. So they're just saying they're very happy that you did do it the way that it came through because that was the appropriate way to do it. They just want you to know that. They're saying that was the appropriate way,
I'm so
regardless of what anybody thinks.
I'm so great. Well, many of my teachers told me that, so but it's always good to have extra support for what you're doing and how you're doing it and when you're doing it. So I please, I know they hear me. Thank you for your support.
They are just so excited. They said they love to play with you. They love to play. They love so one of the things they're bringing up for me now is they love your eloquent speech. They love your poems. They love your speaking with them. And they love you translating some of the things that are almost untranslatable that you have been translating into a way where people here can hear and understand it. So they're just saying thank you for being that translator for some of the things that are a lot of times hard to translate.
Thank you. That's wonderful. That's
And as
wonderful.
you started doing this, you started doing poems and you did the different I call it kind of speaking from your heart. I don't know what you call it, but so it's almost like just speaking from your heart and letting that go, orating. And how does that make you feel? So some people get almost and they're just kind of talking to me up here. So some people get like drained after doing some of these things. Some people are energized. How does it work for you?
Well, first of all, and to be perfectly transparent, um, I had awful time growing up with speaking in front of
Mm.
groups. I would have such intense anxiety, I couldn't manage. I would stutter, I would stammer, I would just but as time went along and I utilized some of the visualizations and different things and breathing that we are taught and that we teach others, a lot of that have diminished. It's not completely gone. What happens now is I will feel anxious beforehand and maybe 60 to 120 seconds into the speaking. And then as I invite and allow my beautiful spirit team of orators to
I
come in and
believe
for me to say to spirit, uh, let your words be the words you want me to speak, the anxiety goes completely. And
Right.
I am one, not necessarily with the audience, but I'm one with myself and with spirit. And so this is inspired speaking, as you can imagine. I've taught it. I've had a couple of workshops with on inspired speaking, and I talk about speaking from the heart and the extent to which we need to tune into our heart to be able to speak. And the tuning in is impacted by the extent to which we can move that anxiety away and focus completely on our inner world and our heart space.
I think that's so important for people to hear because the mental health and the spirituality and bringing those two worlds together is going forward faster and faster. The two worlds are converging faster and faster. And I think it's a great time for people to realize mental health and spirituality, they're not two separate things. They're one thing that's finally being brought together and talked about together. And what a great thing for people to have the ability to explore both aspects of the traditional and the spiritual, and bring both of those aspects together to move themselves into a bigger chance of joy, of happiness. And I love how you talked about with the woman who, for, who is older, who all these years is now discovering who she is. What a what a gift to have that before she passes away, to understand who she is and to step into who she is and to have that freedom. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I look at it, the more I step into who I am, I feel like my personal freedom and choices grow exponentially.
Yes. Mhm. Most definitely.
And as you've continued to do this, both professionally in both aspects, they're saying the spiritual aspect and the quote professional aspect, they're both professional aspects. No matter how you look at it, they're both professional aspects. And they're just saying for all of you out there, all of you listening, to realize you can bring both of your worlds together too. You don't have to keep them separate. This is a time of knowing all our worlds are converging here in your personal life and all around the world.
Yes.
And I just want to ask you quickly, is there something you'd like to bring up before we close today?
Well, to be frank and honest, I would say that this, in many ways, was among the top in terms of comprehensiveness that I had the opportunity to speak and to share. Um, what I would say, let me see what perhaps we haven't talked about, which I'm not sure that there isn't something we haven't talked about. Um, but let me just say to your listeners the extent to which we've discussed so many aspects, but that hopefully that they leave uh, this session that you and I have had together, that it expands their openness. It expands the extent to which that they can see whether they are mediums or healers or right now haven't figured out what their particular path is, that to stay open to all sorts of different ideas, perceptions, perspectives. There is so much out there to be learned, to be understood um, uh, by people that perhaps you never thought of as potentially people that can offer you information and different experiences. You might not agree to everything that you hear or that you read, but certainly stay open to it. Stay. I'm reading Isabel Wilkerson's work now on caste, and it's helping me to have a better understanding not only of aspects of myself, but aspects of other people. and the extent to which perhaps that in the course of my interactions with others, I may pay attention to this particular issue. So, again, we've talked about many things, but I encourage your listeners, stay open, be open, have an openness not only to people, places, and things on this realm, but definitely in the spirit realm, and you'll never go wrong.
I love that. That's great information for people. And the only thing I can hear from them to add is to realize a lot of times what we may consider division is mainly a lot of people are just not sure how to approach people and how to start the conversation. Like you had said, shy, but there's the shyness and the I don't know how to do this. Is this correct? Is that correct? And they're just telling me this is a time to close your eyes and just feel the person in front of you. How
Yeah,
would you approach them?
that's right. That's right. You're so right. And may I say this, in our class, a woman approached me and said, "Oh, you have such beautiful energy." And how could you not respond positively to such a open and honest and transparent experience of the person? So, as you say, stay true to yourself. Whatever is lovingly and positively coming from you and your heart, you can't go wrong.
I love that. I love that. This has been an absolutely beautiful time. I thank you so much, Lorna, for everything you shared, for this amazing conversation. I had such a great time with it today.
I did too. Thank you. Thank you very much. And to your listeners, thank
Oh,
you for the opportunity.
thank you so much. And I just want to encourage everybody to make sure to check out Lorna's information. You can go on lornajhines.com. And she's also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and also go to her Facebook group. It's Mediums of African Ancestry. Make sure to check out all of her information. She has a lot of great information out there. She's got a beautiful heart. You really got to get to know her. I am so thankful to have gotten to know her. And I just want to encourage people, make sure to check out all information. And for those of you listening, if there's any links anywhere, I'll have all the links below. So if you're finding something, all the links to all of Lorna's information will be there. You can go ahead and click on it there. And I just want to thank you again, Lorna. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your knowledge. I appreciate it greatly. And I just want to let people know, make sure to watch the next episodes of Edge Talk Radio. They're on the first and third Tuesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. But if you miss it, no worries. You can always catch the downloadable podcasts afterwards or watch the interview, which I think they're amazing to see. Watch the interviews on my YouTube channel, Angela Zabel, Teacher Coach Medium. And I want to thank all of you out there. Thank you so much for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Have an absolutely beautiful and amazing day.